Hey, come see us live. We're doing our Rumble Time show September 27th in Los Angeles. We'll be in Tempe, Arizona, and we'll be in Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. I'm going to show you this video. So you talk about how, you know, the deep state, the blob, right? The State Department, the DOD, the Pentagon, the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, the blob, which again, doesn't work for the government. They don't work for the president. They don't work for the Congress. They work for a cabal of billionaires and corporations. That's who they actually work for. And they're called the permanent state. And they used to brag about it when Trump became president. Hey, I've been here before. I'm going to be here before you. I'm going to be here after you. We're here forever. Meaning the guys who run the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the DOD. And so we talked about the consolidation of media, and now media people, the reporters don't come from blue-collar backgrounds. They come from Ivy League schools, and they're handpicked by billionaires to be class loyal and to do propaganda. And so, and then they're all funded, all the media is all funded by the military-industrial complex, big pharma, and banks, right? So here, this woman is a reporter for CNN in Syria. This is when they were trying to get Donald Trump to bomb Syria. And so there was a pipeline they wanted to put through there, and that was the big problem. So anyway, always goes back to oil. So they did these fake gas attacks. These are called false flags, and they blamed them on Assad, who was winning the war. And the one thing that they said would trigger the United States to bomb would be a gas attack. That would be the red line, as Barack Obama said. So what did they do? All of a sudden, they did gas attacks, which makes absolutely no sense for Assad to do that. And we debunked that here on this show immediately, that Robert Fisk did great reporting on the ground, and that they didn't do that. It was actually the Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, the terrorists, did these fake gas attacks, and then blamed them on Assad. And now we've been confirmed because the OPCW whistleblowers came out and told us we were correct, that there was a big cover-up to make it look like Assad gassed his own people. And here's a CNN reporter, and here's how she's going to confirm that there was a chlorine attack. Watch this.
And there's definitely something that stings.
Oh, really? Because that's the first thing you would do. Hey, I think there's some chemical on here that's used to kill people. Oh, let me sniff it. Oh, yeah, smells like a false flag. So that woman right now is working for Democracy Now! So I told you Democracy Now! Was infiltrated. I've been saying this for years, which is why they never fully debunked Russiagate, and they would bring on people to lie about Russiagate, that Amy Goodman and Democracy Now! Are completely infiltrated and compromised, because that woman now, here it is. Many Ukrainians, when asked about American military support, say the U.S. is giving Ukraine enough so that it doesn't lose, but not enough so that it can actually make significant and needed gain, says journalist Arwa Damon. That's who, I'm not saying she's working for Democracy Now!, but now they're quoting her.
Yeah, right.
That's who Democracy Now! Is quoting. They're quoting this woman.
Yeah.
This woman, Democracy Now! Is now using as a credible source for more war funding in Ukraine. So Democracy Now! Is on board for more war funding in Ukraine because they're completely compromised. And here's what Max Blumenthal says. She says, Democracy Now! Hosted Arwa Damon, who once determined that Assad used chemical weapons by sniffing a backpack to argue for longer-range U.S. missiles to Ukraine. Hey, why not cut out the middlewoman and just host a Raytheon lobbyist? Go ahead, Mike. You wanted to say something.
I was going to ask you, Jimmy, is Ukraine a democracy now?
Ukraine is not a democracy. Ukraine, he outlawed all the opposition newspapers. He outlawed
elections.
He got rid of the elections, outlawed the opposition parties, locked up anybody who was speaking freely, including religious people, Christians in Ukraine. That there's zero democracy in Ukraine right now. That's a complete dictatorship.
Yes, it's a total dictatorship. There's no democracy. So it's just amazing. Democracy Now! is promoting, the taxpayer, more funds to the complete autocratic vassal state of Ukraine that, has violated every tenet of what it takes for us to validate an external election, as well as just banning elections altogether. So you have a permanent vassal tool there. But, the fact is when I saw her sniffing that, I couldn't help but think of all the other nerve gas attacks that were done to justify all the other cloak and dagger operations of the blob. I don't know if folks are familiar with Alexei Navalny, the CIA-backed Putin opposition candidate.
Yes.
That
was sure. Bono loves that guy.
Of course. No, Navalny was literally flown to the Yale Jackson School, the Maurice Greenberg World Fellows Program. Maurice Greenberg was the guy who Bill Clinton first asked to be the CIA director before he declined. So the name of the school is named after the guy who was asked to be the CIA director. And then what he was studying there was democratization and techniques for protest, street protest activity. He was then shipped back out to Russia. He was used as the major CIA vassal for the street protests that he and 20,000 other people orchestrated on the streets of Moscow using Telegram, and then pressuring Russia with international sanctions if they tried to ban Telegram. Somewhat ironic given what happened 6 years later with the arrest of Pavel. But if folks recall, Navalny was said to have been poisoned on a flight about 4 years ago, and it was a big international incident. And everyone said, well, because sanctions, the U.S. and the EU both passed sanctions on Russia in 2020, 2021 over the use of a Novichok nerve agent. Right. This international, act of almost effectively violation under the Geneva Convention, and they had to find some reason to sneak in a sanctions predicate. So it had to be some ghastly, Star Wars cinematic universe evil weapon. And so everyone said, well, how do you know he didn't just fake it and go to the hospital? How do you know he didn't just have a tummy ache? How do you know it was this Russian nerve gas Novichok? So that sent about 6 to 8 months of feverish, we can't tell you. We have sources and methods. So then finally, the international community was like, how do you know? And so they got Bellingcat, which was funded at the time.
CIA cut out Bellingcat, yes, which we've exposed on this show a million times.
Funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, right, the very group, established by the CIA director in 1983. And so Bellingcat sat right next to Alexei Navalny as he prank called a Russian FSB agent on an unsecured line and got the Russian intelligence officer to explain how they did the Novichok operation to Navalny, who was using a fake voice. He was just basically talking in a baritone. And what this Russian FSB officer said is that we went to his hotel room the night before. We found the underwear that he was going to wear on the plane the next day. We applied Novichok to the underwear, to the inside of the underwear, so that when he put his underwear on in the morning, it would attack his body from the inside. So the official story, in order to slap sanctions on Russia, was that they gave him a Novichok nutsack. I mean, come on. Like, at what point does this become so farcical that not even a fiction movie, you couldn't even suspend your disbelief if it was Hollywood? But it's the New York Times.
But it's because the New York Times is just like state media. I mean, the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, and Fox, they're all state media. That's why Tucker Carlson got fired. He didn't get fired for lying. Remember when Tucker Carlson was repeating the lies about Iraq war, they gave him his own show on MSNBC and CNN, right? They loved him. It was when he started telling the truth about the Syrian gas attacks, the Syrian war. He started telling the truth about the Ukraine war. And then he started telling the truth about COVID. And when he brought on Bobby Kennedy to tell the truth about COVID and vaccines, they fired him. He didn't get fired for lying. He got fired just like you think Julian Assange's in prison for lying or tell the truth? He was in prison because he told the truth. Hey, come see us live. We're doing our Rumble Time show September 27th in Los Angeles. We'll be in Tempe, Arizona, and we'll be in Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.